It looks like we're headed back to Armageddon, and the war begins. Let's paint an orc boy. Here at Tattoo Tabletop, we have a lot of fun, so be sure to like, share, subscribe down below. It's completely free and it helps me out. Now back to the video.
Alrighty, so here we've got the Orc Boy, the special one that I got from going to Adepticon. He's got his Shuda, he's got his Choppa, but we primed him Chaos Black, and then we gave him Zenithal coat of white. I tend to like my colors a little bit colder, so I did the white. But let's get started with the skin. So I have a very specific skin recipe, and it involves the Plague Bearer Flesh Contrast and Bealtan Green. Now, we're not doing both of these steps at the same time. I am going to be using my Monument number 2 just to kind of show you, like, this is the brush I use for pretty much all of it. So just to kind of show you exactly what it looks like, but we're going to start with Plague Bearer Flesh. So you're going to start here so that you can work this all over the skin. This is going to be our first layer. It's going to get it to that kind of brighter lime greenish kind of color, but eventually we will later come back with Bealtan, and we're going to bring it down a little bit. But first, start by applying that Plague Bearer Flesh all over the orc. All right, now that you've got that applied, that's what this looks like here. So again, very bright color. If you want to keep it there, you totally can, but we will do the other step later. But next, what we're going to want to do is get the black details. So in this case, we're going to aim for the boots, we're going to aim for the wrist guard, but nothing too complicated, and we'll also do the shirt. So I'm going to grab Grim Black from Army Painter, and I'm going to use my little pop socket thing here because actually it's great for using these type of speed paints in, and they're very, very easy to clean. So we're just going to go ahead, we're going to thin it down. We're going to actually put it on the metallic sections as well because that's going to add a lot of definition for us later. So we'll cover the pistol, the slugga, we'll cover the choppa, we'll cover the shuda, and his shirt along with his boots. But we'll just make our way around with that thinned down Grim Black, and we'll get everything that we want black covered. And that's what you should look like once you cover all the black sections there. Next, we're going to move on to the leathers and the pants there. So we're going to start with the darker color first. So let's start with those pants there. We're not going to do two of the same color, but we're just going to go ahead and start with Satchel Brown from the Speed Paint range, and we're going to use that for the pants there. And later we'll come back in with a different color for the belt to kind of help differentiate it. If you want to keep it the same color, you totally can, but we're just going to take our time. We're going to take that Satchel Brown and we're going to cover it all over the trousers and any other leather straps that we might want to have that darker color, like this one that is helping hold his shuda. And that's what that guy should look like once you covered those certain straps. Next, we're going to start covering the blue sections. Specifically, my orcs are blue, and this is a recipe that I've done, so I'm going to cover the spot there on the slugga and on the shoulder pad. In my case, I use Storm Fiend from the contrast range. It's a somewhat difficult contrast paint. It involves a lot of extra shaking and stuff like that, but I've loved this hue of blue. And so, you know, in this sake of keeping it consistent so that this boy can just jump into my army, I do the blue. You can do whatever color you want to, but you just cover that spot on the slugga and on his shoulder pad. Just be careful to make sure it doesn't pool in those large flat areas, so just keep pulling the paint until it makes its way down, which is also why you give it a little bit of thinning just to help it flow a little better. If it looks a little splotchy, that's okay. Orcs are dirty. That's how it's supposed to be. So now that we've got the blue all settled down on there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go on to that brighter leather. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to get that little pouch that he has in the front there. We're going to get in between the belt buckle, and later we'll hop onto the straps, but there's also a little knife holster back there, or stabba. But we're going to use hardened leather from the Army Painter Speed Paint range again. Again, I just really like the speed paint ranges because they actually flow very smoothly. Unfortunately, all of the footage of this is incredibly blurry, so I'll just show you the finished product, which is like that. But we've got all that covered now, so that's all good. But one of the next steps that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cover some of those straps, and I'm going to use actually pallid bone for this. If you want to go like an Agros or something a little dirtier, since, you know, they're orcs, that's really fine. The nice part about doing this step at this juncture is even if you spill it onto something else, it's not going to mess up the other details because they're darker colors, so it won't mess with any of that. So you just get a couple of those straps, get the little wrappings around the leg, you know, the thing holding the Shuda, and we're good. But now it's time to finally wrap up that skin. So we're going to go back to that BL tan green. We're going to put that on the palette. We're going to thin down a little bit, and then we're just going to run this all over the skin. So this is nice because you can control a little bit of how dark you want to go. You can really pull it on there to really drive home the darkness on it with the shade, or you can thin it down to only make it a slight tint, but you just make your way around. Just like before, cover all the skin, and you'll finally got that nice green that we associate with Dawa. And that's what that guy should look like. And he's almost done. One of the last steps we're going to do here, though, is we do need to do some metallics. All right, next we're going to grab some plate mail metal, and we are just going to use a very tiny, very destroyed brush of mine that I have, this little guy here. And we're going to dry brush all the metallics. Again, orcs, they're scavengers. They use whatever they can find. And in this case, the sluggas, the shootas, the choppas, they're all very scratchy. They've been scavenged, so that's the kind of effect we're going to go for here. It's not a dry brush. It's more of an overbrush because there's a little bit extra paint we want to get off onto the brush. So we're just going to do this all over the Shuda, and you'll even see when we get to the Choppa here that I try and do it in a certain sweeping motion so that it creates a scratchy edge to the blade. Unfortunately, this part here is blurry, but you'll kind of see the effect once we get back into focus here. In 3, 2, 1. There we go. So you can kind of see that scratchy edge on the Choppa, but you just go back through, touch up a few more details, including the eyes and everything, and you are all set. Your boy is ready for Dawa. Let me know down in the comments down below. Are you getting ready for Armageddon? Are you jumping in for the very first time, or are you just painting orcs? Let me know. And of course, until next time, I've been Tattooed Tabletop. Now go paint something.